Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Living in God's Rhyme, the podcast where me, Dave, talks with the other host.
Tim. My name is Tim, and I am the other host, the other half of his podcast, and I'm sitting here watching Dave smile and laugh and sit back in his seat because apparently he thought something was funny.
I did. It was weird. I was watching part one today, folks, of our interview with Gwen. I was watching it on the YouTube channel because I wanted to make sure what we were talking and what she said. But anyway, you were talking in the beginning of that one because you were the one that started laughing at the beginning because all of a sudden when we how strange things come into our head, and you were talking about the popcorn and Jiffy Pop. Yeah, and as soon as the numbers went down, because we have a countdown clock, folks. As soon as the numbers started counting down, my first thought was, "Oh, popcorn! Here we go." Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Well, this is a podcast where we talk about some fantastically wonderful things and some weird things that pop into our heads, right, Jim?
That's right. And sometimes they come in a jiffy, sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And we should probably, you mentioned Gwen, and completely let them know that this is the second half of our interview with Gwen Allen that was out on December 3rd.
Yes.
So if you haven't listened to or seen that one, I encourage you to listen to the second half of this one and go back and see the first half.
Oh, yes. The first half is very interesting. It talks a lot about her. We talk a lot about her faith and how it grew. And I love when she talked about fearing God. Was it fearing God? Is that how she phrased it? Yeah, something to that. Because of, she talked about it. And she realized she doesn't need to fear God. She's supposed to love God.
Well, there's another, fearing God is when you fear God as a Christian, as a believer, that is to be in awe and reverence of Him. Right.
That makes sense now.
Yeah. So,
yeah. We talked about her poet, or you talked about her
drawings. The drawings from the third book, Living in God's Rhyme.
And the one I like, the one that keeps coming back to my head is the one about you peel back the top of somebody's head, it's an onion in there, and that's supposed to be you, but
you know what? I'm going to say something, folks, and you're going to wonder what I'm talking about, and I'm sorry, you're going to have to keep wondering for a while. But I think that was prophetic.
Yeah,
that drawing in my head being peeled back like an onion.
Yeah.
Because today, part of it was. And again, we'll talk about that later, folks.
Another time, folks. But
I do think that not only were those drawings very, really influential and effective in influencing me to write poetry.
Yeah.
But I'm beginning to think that whole chapter was prophetic.
Yeah.
And it was set up. It was set up ahead of time. And prophetic is probably the wrong word, but it was in God's plan. And
I really believe it is. And if you read page 187 of Living in God's Rhyme, where it says, Introduction, Tim. In March of this year, I attended a John Courtney Newman talk with my wife at St. Stephen's Church. And it talks about how you met Gwen. And she's just an amazing girl.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe we should get on with the interview and let everybody else find out how amazing she is.
I think that is a absolutely wonderful idea. So are you ready, folks? Because here she comes.
Nice. Yes.
All right. So, Tim, we're back talking with Gwen again. on our second part of the interview that we recorded earlier in November. And just so you know, folks, we recorded this in November, and you're going to hear it in December and January. But Gwen, you're living in South Korea. What was the name of that town again?
Daegu.
Daegu.
Yep.
Is that the only place you've lived since you moved to Korea, or have you been someplace else?
Yes, it is the only place I've lived, but I've traveled around.
Have you? Do
Yeah.
you? What drew you besides the Lord? I mean, what? I know the Lord said to you, you need to live on the other side of the world, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Did he draw you to Korea, or what? How did Korea pop into your head or into your life? If you could give us that.
Man. So there's a two-pronged answer to this question.
Okay.
As with anything complicated, but so there's the real answer, which I'm going to give you, and then there's the answer of, I just thought I'd try somewhere in Asia. That's sort of the answer that I like to give people, because the real answer is K-pop, unfortunately. I don't like to admit, but yeah, so when I was a senior in high school, my best friend that I graduated with was really obsessed with a popular group that you might have heard of now. They're gaining sort of international popularity, but they are called BTS.
Yes.
And they're sort of gaining some traction, I guess, in the U.S. now. But I was one of the original fans, I like to say. But they debuted in 2013, and then I graduated high school in 2016. So they were kind of still in their rookie phase, I guess. And my best friend was like, we were driving somewhere, and she was listening to this music, and I was like, is this English? What is this? I just remember I couldn't understand a single thing. And she goes, no, it's Korean. And I said, but you're Chinese. What's happening here? Why are you listening to Korean music? And she's like, I asked her, like, can you understand this? And she said, no, it's got a good beat. I like the beat. And I remember thinking, like, that's really strange. Like, I didn't understand it at all. And I know that's the main, that this is coming from someone who actually really enjoys Korean music now. But I completely understand that sort of confusion of why on earth would people listen to K-pop if they can't understand it? What's going on here? But I think it's got that same sort of addictive factor of, like, the beat. You feel energy, you feel sort of the rhythm or whatever, even if you can't understand all the words. So it's funny because I went home that night and I remember it, like, coming into my mind like an earworm, and I was like, awakened from a deep slumber. What is this nightmare, right? What is this Korean music in my mind? And that's sort of how it began, of me deciding, you know what, I don't want to be like my friend, and that's not going to satisfy me to just listen to the beat. If I'm really going to like this group, or if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to, have this new sort of music kind of interest or whatever, I'm gonna learn Korean. Like, I put it in my mind of, you know what, I want to, because I think Tim knows that I'm really musical.
Yes,
too.
I do. Yes.
I did, and all through middle school, high school, I really enjoyed writing music as a hobby. I think, Tim, you've heard a couple of my songs.
I've heard, yes, and I've heard your mother talk about the one that you recently did. Is it called You? Oh,
yes.
I want to hear that one day.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Yes, I will definitely play it for you. But yeah, I really enjoy, writing music and stuff like that too. So I think for someone that views music as this really important thing, and kind of from a songwriter's perspective too, I want to hear the song as the writers intended it to be heard, which is at the time you're listening, right? So I didn't want to, I was tired of kind of, I would listen to it and then I would Google the lyrics later and then read the meaning. So it's kind of just like separating these two parts that I want to feel the emotion all together, right? I remember when they had a new song come out, I listened to it and then I looked up the lyrics after and I was like, oh, that's not what I imagined it to be about at all, right? Because I was just guessing, of course, because I had no idea. So I think that was probably 5 years ago now is when I started learning Korean after my high school graduation. So it was this very wild, genuinely, it was God. Like, there's no other explanation. Why Korean? Why the night? I'm not kidding you guys. The night of my high school graduation. This is the time all of us split up. All the friends left, went to other colleges, things like that. I don't know. I don't have any other explanation for it. I had not been exposed to anything Korean before this. I have no Korean relatives. And this force just felt so strong that, okay, here we go. Like, I guess I'm learning Korean now, right? And I remember going to a relative's house, taking my Korean book with me. I was never in any classes or anything, but I just was doing it as a hobby. And I remember it was one of those feelings like everyone around me thought I was crazy, probably.
I can't.
She's not even in a class. She thinks she's going to learn Korean. The alphabet isn't even English, right? They're not English characters. They're the symbols. And so I remember like every time, because obviously I started from beginner level, so I was studying the characters and things like that. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't say jack squat in Korean, but I was learning it. And I think that sort of appearance or whatever, just the picture of me just trying to scribble some weird letters and I can't speak anything, that was probably really frustrating for a few relatives of mine, I'll say. Yes, so they were kind of sort of trying to push me into, okay, what do you want to do? You know, what are your goals? And I was like, I think I want to study international studies and business. And they were like, I thought you wanted to be a lawyer. Like, there's just all this confusion, right? And for me too, on the inside, I went into college. I had a business major, no declared minor. And then it flip-flopped. I had already taken business classes, so I switched to a minor. And then I made international studies my major, just like that. And that was without, the furthest away that I had been was across the bridge to Canada in terms of other countries, right? And if you count my parents' one cruise that we took to the Bahamas, where we just got off the boat, got back on, you know? So definitely this came out of absolutely nowhere, and I'm so glad it did, because again, for those of you listening, and for Dave and Tim, I don't know if you know, so I'll just say it here, but you're probably wondering, she's living in Korea, but can she speak Korean still? Like, we need an ending to this this tragic story. Yes, so I came to Korea as a study abroad, an exchange year, and I came to Daegu, the city I'm currently living, and I attended language school. That was the first sort of exposure to intense studying. This was where I realized, oh, some stereotypes involving studying and people in East Asia may have some truth to them because they don't mess around. It was insane. I had not a lot of free time. I studied for 20 hours a week in the language program only. And then I had other classes to fulfill the study abroad, the exchange thing at my university. So I was in a situation where if I escape this 20-hour-a-week program and don't learn Korean, I did something wrong. Because the whole, structure of it was set up to help me just sort of cram learn it. And luckily, I joined 3 clubs. The second I stepped foot there, I joined 3 sort of after-school clubs where I was the only foreigner there, and I didn't know Korean. So that was another kind of God thing of God sort of whispering in my ear, maybe you should join a club. And I'm like, maybe I should join a club. Yeah, that's a good idea. Not realizing I'm just going to be like the weird girl in the corner, just trying to make friends. But those, kid you not, those experiences are the ones that really put me above my classmates in terms of Korean language skill, because my listening went up, my speaking increased, whereas all my other classmates, they were only getting that in-class time to do short, question answer type things, whereas I was actually listening to real conversations by Korean speakers, even if I just felt like a shadow on the wall or a fly on the wall, if you'll say. It's kind of that thing of, it really is, you have to force yourself to be uncomfortable for a solid period of time before you can eventually break through that sort of wall and realize, oh wow, that time helped me a lot looking back.
Yeah.
So now I took a Korean proficiency exam, and the highest level is level 6, and I currently have a level 5. So I am advanced speaker, writer, listener, and reader, of course, because it tests on all those things. And I am currently studying to get the level 6. I'm not satisfied. I have to get the highest.
I wouldn't expect less out of
yes.
you. And that's great. Congratulations on all of that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
Absolutely
you so much.
amazing.
Thank you so much.
And now you're teaching, right?
Yes. Yeah. So now I am, which also the Korean language knowledge really helps teaching too, because all my kids are native Korean speakers. So I can sort of hear mistakes that they make and sort of think about it from a Korean language standpoint and say, I understand why you said that. There's a lot of things, like, for example, in Korean, noon, I taught you noon beat earlier is yes. I light, but noon can also mean snow. So there's a word, noon saram. Saram is person. So snow person is how you say snowman in Korean. So us, we say snowman, right? Why is it a man? Who knows? Maybe we need to ask Shakespeare or something. I don't know, whoever came up with that, right? A long time ago, right? Someone decided it was snowman. But in Korea now, when I'm teaching kids, sometimes I'll read their essays and they'll say, I like Christmas time. My favorite season is Christmas because they'll call Christmas a season too. I'm like, you know what? I'm from the US. That is correct. That is the right answer. It's a whole season. So they'll say, I like to go outside and play with my friends and make snow people. And I'm like, that sounds a little culty. What's going on here? But of course, if I didn't have that sort of Korean language background, I wouldn't know what they're trying to say, maybe. So you make snow people. Snowman. Kind of that's maybe a weaker example, but that's just the first one to come to mind.
That's a good one.
There's certain things like that I really enjoy, having that additional resource that I think God prepared me for. And obviously I don't think this is the end by any means. I think that even now, the time that I'm going through is preparing me for something hopefully bigger in the future as well. But I know that studying Korean and going through all those things have prepared me really well to understand my students. And I think that must have all been part of the plan.
It's amazing when how you rely on the Lord, how you are open to whatever God has, and you hear Him, and you may not hear the actual voice. Gwen, this is God speaking, but the Holy Spirit is working through you, and you are following where you're led, and you're doing so well with it too. I am impressed, and I was impressed before. But as you were talking, you actually inspired another poem that I'm going to write, and it's going to be called "A Shadow on the Wall."
Oh, yes.
And I always thought I should ask Gwen to draw a picture of a shadow on the wall, or how that works. But I can do it in poetry too, and I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to promise you that I'll have it done today or tomorrow, but when I do, I will send it to you. And we'll actually read it on a podcast.
Awesome. Yes, I would love to hear that.
Hey, Gwen,
yes.
You have such enthusiasm for teaching, you can tell.
Yes.
What ages of children are you teaching over there?
I'm currently teaching elementary schoolers.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I believe they have 6 levels of, I don't want to say this wrong, but I think elementary school is actually 6 years, and then middle school is 3, high school is 3.
Oh, okay.
So we actually have sort of what we would call 6th graders mixed in with the elementary bunch that I teach, but they're all so smart. Like, it's scary. I'm teaching, like, I think my youngest student right now is probably 7, and he can have a conversation with me. He can have a basic English conversation. I'm really impressed with these kids. They have well, actually I should tell you guys this too. I'm not a school teacher. I'm actually an academy teacher. So they have this super huge private school culture here. And they're called hagwons, but the academies, every Korean student will go to school from in the morning from 8 until 2, and then they'll rush off to academy, and they'll have academies until 10 p.m. at night, just back to back to back. So I don't know when these kids have time to do homework, have time to be kids, to play. That's the other thing that I think is really kind of heartbreaking, to be honest, because I'm seeing that there's such a vast difference between Korean children and U.S. children. I don't want to say nowadays, because obviously it's been a while since I was running around in dirt as well, playing in the mud. But when I was a kid, we don't have very strong academy culture. We call it tutoring, and that's if you need help in a certain subject. But here, kids, every single student has at least 2 academies that they go to. They'll go to an English academy twice a week, or a math academy, or science. There's everything. There's Taekwondo academy. Wow. These kids learn the rules to Taekwondo. I'm like, whoa, okay. You don't have to show off. Calm down, guys. But obviously Taekwondo too, that's Korea's thing. So I guess that's maybe another reason why they have sort of that proper education of it. But it's a lot. There's not very many, like, they don't have very many school sports teams. It's very academic focused, and I guess now I hate to say I'm getting used to it, because I don't ever want to get used to it, but it's something that when I first got back here, because obviously I did my 1 year as a exchange student, came back to the US, graduated college, and came back this second time. This time I'm currently here. And when I came back to work, it was totally different. And it was something that made me want to cry a lot, because I would have 6 and 7 year olds sighing, like these deep sighs that, like, I've only ever heard like 50-year-old heavy smokers do, right? Like that really deep, heavy sigh. I'm like, where did that come from? You're 6, right? What's going on in your life? And they just, they have this big sigh and they go, stress. I'm like, stress? You're 7. What do you have to stress about? They're so, I don't even think I knew what stress was when I was, before the age of 10, probably. I think I just worried about what, if the colors of my outfit that day that my mom had dressed me in matched or not, right? Well, these kids are under insane pressure, and, they handle it like champs, honestly. But, yeah, just that's another little thing in case, I'm sure a lot of your listeners aren't aware of that sort of little cultural thing too, but academy culture is very strong, and the kids here don't get much of a chance, I feel, to be kids. So I think it's made me appreciate how lucky how lucky I was growing up too, which is something, obviously, unless I came here, I wouldn't be able to have that sort of comparison. So I'm really grateful for my childhood as well.
Yeah. Wow. This has been fantastic, Tim. I've learned about you.
Yes, I loved it.
Yeah. Wow.
It is. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking that actually, Gwen, you and I, well, no, you should take my place on the podcast. You're very well good at talking, and we'll go from there.
No, a couple times I'm like, oh, I'm talking too long.
That's why we wanted you on, Gwen, because you have a unique story for our listeners, I'm sure. We've had a few other interviews of people that I've known, that I know, and and they're all full of faith, full of faith. But I mean, yours has taken you to a place far away, and and you have done well, and it's just it's a testament to your faith in God, and
thank you.
I think it's an example for every young person, and even for us older people. I am constantly struck by the faith of some young people, and I'm thinking, I didn't have it at that age, but and I see some people who are going through terrible things in their lives, but their faith is inspiring even to everybody, even to someone beyond middle age like Dave or me. So
he points to you.
Yeah, but it's wonderful, and we can learn from everybody. It doesn't matter their age. We can learn from everybody, and God will put those people in our lives so that we do that. And I just think it's great. It's just great.
Yeah. Hey, Gwen, I have one more question before we let you go.
Yes.
And this is just personal. It's like a 2-part question. The first part of it is, are you enjoying yourself? And the second part is, do you plan on staying there for a long, long time, or is that your new permanent home, or how? What are your plans for the future? I guess.
Oh, this is a good question. Mom, Dad, plug your
Yes.
ears.
That's funny.
You just answered them, Dave.
I think so.
Yeah, no, just kidding. No, it's funny because this is the question, my parents ask me a lot, like, so, it's nice, you're having fun, you're playing in South Korea, but, when's playtime over, when are you coming back? But I really do enjoy it here. I really love, being here, but I do know that at some point my home is the US. I really feel at home there, and Korea is just sort of like that second home for me. So I want to spend, definitely a few years here and kind of save up money. I'm currently paying back student loan debt to my parents that they're so gratefully helping me with, because obviously they're in the US. So kind of saving up money, sort of paying off college loans, and just kind of having this sort of breather time, in a sense, to decide what my next step is going to be. And eventually, actually, my kind of dream right now is I would like to set up a business, because obviously I have international studies and business, major and minor. So I would really be interested in setting up a business in South Korea, but then managing it from overseas. So having people, hiring people that I'm confident in their work and that they're good at English or something like that, and having them sort of control the Korean part of it, and then me going back and retiring by age 40.
That is a laudable goal. It is.
Yeah. It won't happen, but
Oh.
I think if you would have asked me 7 years ago, though, if I'd be moving to Korea, I also would have said not going to happen. But here I am. So that just shows how we never know. But wherever the wind takes me, I guess.
Yes.
Well, I have a feeling it's more where the Lord takes you.
Well,
Yeah, I am planning to visit home soon.
There is that drawing in the book about the wind. Wherever the wind may blow.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
I do want to say one more thing really quick.
Sure.
I know you guys have to end it. So my grandfather this year, he was my biggest inspiration in my faith. He was my confirmation sponsor. He inspired so many people in so many ways. Just a great joy to be around. Truly God's light. And he actually passed away this year on my birthday.
Mm.
On my birthday. So that's just sort of, one of those hard times in my life. Especially I'm in Korea, I had to watch the funeral through online, on Facebook Live, alone in my room, and watching my family all hugging and consoling each other. And, I look back and I think, why did it have to be on that day? Why not the day after, the day before? Obviously, the fact that he's not in my life anymore, that's terrible, that's awful, but I'm stuck on this day, right? Why my birthday, God? Why? This was back in March, and I think after praying a while about it, it's actually, instead of me viewing it as such a terrible thing, oh my gosh, now every year on my birthday, I'm just going to think of this, one of my favorite people's death. Why did you do this? Instead of that, God switched my perspective around. He said, I did that so you could remember what a beautiful gift that you had in your life. What a powerful, inspiration to your faith life that your grandfather was. So it's one of those things that I think that was another thing of sort of, obviously in Korea, it hasn't always been a flower trail, you know? It hasn't always been rainbows and sunshine. But even the bad moments where I've just really felt like I was alone or almost betrayed in a way by God, he made me see the other side of, no, you're not understanding. You're not seeing. I did this for you. This was for you. So that was just a kind of note that I did want to say really quick was, that's had to have been the hardest point in my life so far. And I had to go through it alone over here. And so I think my faith was really important to me at that time as well. Sort of knowing that was another thing, like, oh my gosh, on my birthday, on the day, this was also God's plan in a way, right? This was 100% his plan, so that every year on my birthday, I can remember that he helped me in my faith, that maybe I wouldn't have been as strong in my faith if it weren't for my grandpa, who was my confirmation sponsor and my cheerleader kind of. So yeah, I think that's just kind of an overall message for anyone going through something, that if you just switch your perspective, it can change even the worst looking of things.
That's beautiful. Yes. Yes, absolutely, yes.
Dave, I think you turned your mic off.
I was
you're
going to
good.
say something,
Very
but
good.
the last time I said that, it was like, Dave. That was
Yeah, no, I did
He's
that.
like, oh, I
I was glad that
I turned it off too.
with my hearing, who knows? But thank you, Gwen, for being the one to.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I turn it off when I have to clear my throat, because sometimes it gets a little loud, and also I have my window open, so the noise outside sometimes. But I appreciate you being with us today, and don't go anywhere, because we're going to talk afterwards. But you inspire me, and for a person of your age to inspire me is not something new to me, but it always impresses me, and you impress me, and I am so happy to have met you, and I hope we can keep in touch too. And on that, I'm going to let Tim say something, and then we're going to call this a day. And again, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you
Glenn,
guys so much.
Gwen, I thank you for this this time that you've given us for this interview, because I wanted to share what you did for me with the poem, with the drawings, and let people know about it. And just to listen to you and your faith in God and where he's led you, and over those bad times, as you were talking about your grandfather, and how that actually God is working in a positive way in your life over that. I thank you for your sharing and your time, and hope and pray for only the best for you there in Korea and the rest of your life, and pray that this journey continues where God takes you, and you're going to follow. And we'd like to follow up with you every once in a while and see how everything's going. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I
All
love
right.
that.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please invite me anytime.
Yeah. And if you ever come up with that shadow drawing, let me know. maybe we'll put just a book together of a short booklet of drawings and poems again, but we'll see. Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep,
thank you, Gwen.
Gwen. God bless.
Thank
Folks.
you.
Sorry, I was writing a number down.
You were. When Dave pauses, when I pause, sometimes it's to gather my thoughts or have pray a thought comes to mind. When Dave pauses, he's writing something down, which is why he is the producer, the technician, the advertising guru, and the younger brother who has more energy than I do.
Well, I don't know. It's Monday. For some reason I have a depletion on Monday.
Well, yeah, you have that odd work schedule where you work on weekends.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. Last weekend was a fun one, and it's over. That's all I got to say. And next week is going to be worse, folks, because there's a marathon at Disney.
Oh, is there?
Oh, God. 3 days of marathons, which means 3 days of reroutes and people running all over the place, and we still got to guess where they want to go.
Oh, so you're driving a marathon.
It seems like it, yeah. But anyways, folks, what did you think of Gwen? I would love to hear what you thought of Gwen's second interview. Wow, the teaching in an academy over in Daegu, South Korea. I hope I'm saying Daegu right. That's obvious, isn't
it? Someone will tell you if you're not.
Yeah, somebody fact check me on that. But man, jeez, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's takes a lot of faith to put your life in God's hands and make that move to a country that you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
You spent even to go in the first place to go off for that 1 year of college.
Oh yeah.
And then to decide to go back. So she's fun to talk to.
She is. I didn't when I went to college. That wasn't an option for me, going to another country, because I just did 2 years to get an associate's degree, and I wanted it done so I could get to work. But and I don't think that was something you would have been able to do either in your career or in your college career.
No, I didn't even know if it was thought of back in the last century.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Wow. Mine was in the last century too.
Yeah, I know. And in my field of study, it wouldn't have been.
Mythology.
We haven't talked about.
Could have gone to Greece.
Pardon?
Could have gone to Greece for Greek mythology.
Greece? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, I majored in philosophy in college, folks.
Oh, I was thinking mythology. Yeah.
Yes, and realized in my senior year there's only two things you could do with it, and that was to teach or write, and I wasn't going to do either one. And I realized much later on there's a third thing you can do with it. With a degree in philosophy, you can be unemployed.
Oh, I could see that.
But I think it kind of led me in opening my mind to other things, and it finally opened my mind to the truth of God's word.
Yeah. Don't you think that philosophy and poetry kind of, I don't want to say go together, but they can walk side by side and not hurt each other?
No, actually, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Because philosophy is supposed to be, you're supposed to be able to logically prove what you're saying in philosophy.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you just can't say, I like this, it makes sense, unless you're a philosophy teacher. And I went to the University of Michigan my last 2 years of school, and local community college before that. My first philosophy class, after taking a my first class at U of M in philosophy was with a professor who was, at least around the country, was acknowledged as an expert in ethics.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
And in philosophy, you have to be able to logically prove your argument. And philosophy I think it's a series of arguments to prove what your beliefs are.
Okay.
So, first day of class, in the first paragraph of his talking to us, this is the type of ethics I believe in, I follow, because I like it. I think it's right. My whole class in proving my arguments went out the window, and I think my hope to do anything with philosophy was crushed right there.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh geez. So okay, they can't walk side by side.
No.
I agree with you.
No. Poets are full of hope. Poets are full of truth and fantasy. Some are, but it's from the heart. Poetry is from the heart.
This is true.
Yeah. So we should probably move on.
Hey, let me ask you this before we go on. Has Gwen sent you any more pictures or anything?
No, she hasn't. No.
Oh, okay.
When you listen to her schedule, I'm sure she's.
Well, that's true too.
You know.
She did say she wasn't doing a lot of drawing anymore.
Yeah, no, she wasn't. But no.
Yeah. But yeah, let's go on.
All right. I got 2 poems from drawings of Gwen's, and again, they're both in Living in God's Rhyme. At the end of the book, a separate chapter. And the first one is called The Reflection, and it is found on page 197. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and beauty is what is beholden. God saw the beauty of Mary, a beauty of motherhood for his son, and he saw the beauty of his son in the sacrifice for those he loved. That beauty God shares with the girl as she walks through this world. As she gazes at the reflection, she sees the love God has for her. It is this love that she sees taking her hands and guiding her through her life. It is a love of trust, something she must receive and give in the life she lives. What reflection do you see when looking in the mirror?
Oh, that's a loaded question in there.
Yeah, it's. I just was going to grab the book and see if I can describe for the listeners what that drawing looked like.
What did we say, 197?
Yeah, I did. So it's on 196, and what it is, she has a picture of one side of a face with, in the eye is the focus of it.
Take it a little bit more to your right.
A little bit more to my right.
There you go. Higher, a bit higher, Tim.
Okay.
A little bit higher.
Right, as you listeners are hearing all this, why, at least you'll know how to look at the book.
Yeah.
Oh, and it has the nose and half of the mouth smiling, but it's in the eye itself where you see the reflection of her. The reflection that of who she is.
Yeah.
And it's that's just what I get out of it. And she did she write on this one also what it was, something about it?
No.
Forgive me, folks.
I don't think so.
No, there's just that face. Some of them she wrote there's some writing on it, and which helped me decide where to go to with poetry. So.
Yeah, that's a good poem, though. You got that because of the picture?
Just by looking at the picture, yeah.
Wow, and the same thing for this next poem you're going to read?
Yeah. Well, the next poem, it's just there's a story behind this poem. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm writing these. I'm looking at the pictures, writing things, and one night I write a poem, and the picture is of a soldier for the Lord, and it's of a man, a younger person who's just dressed up and just a soldier for the Lord. So, that was easy to come up with something. So I wrote a poem, and I believe it was called "Being a Soldier for the Lord." A few days later, I'm thinking again, I got to finish writing these poems about the pictures, the drawings. So I wrote the poem I'm going to read you now, called "A Soldier for the Lord." I wrote 2 poems for this one drawing. Couldn't decide which one to throw out, and thought, well, you might as well just find out how my mind works anyway, does it? If I don't write it down all the time and know that I have something or have it in front of me, I'll keep on going.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a reason for it.
Usually.
But I did like her title to this picture, because we are called to be
a soldier. Yes.
And we are called to put on the full armor of God. And as we go about our day, but we are to be a soldier for the Lord, not that we're ready to fight a battle if it comes, but just to be helpful to others and Oh, it reminds me of the hymn that was apparently my favorite hymn as a child, Onward Christian Soldiers.
Right.
We'll march forward.
Yeah.
Let me read this one. It's found on page 191. There is more than the battle to be won. There is more that we are here for. If we are to follow God's Son, we do not fight as if it's a war. No, our mission is to share his love. If we love God, we are commanded to love others. Maybe the battle rages within us. If we are one with Jesus, the battle has been won. We are raised with his Son. If God is in us, his love we must share. Through our sharing, we show we care, not just for others, but for the Father who loves us in spite of ourselves. We must show the love in our heart, love that is for all to see. As the sun rises, our day starts. Is love what our day will be? Love will overcome hate. If we do not show his love, what will be the fate of those we overlook? A soldier marching forward, sharing God's loving word, showing his saving grace to a stranger's face. If we are to stand, we must follow his command. And then I have a note here at the bottom to read 1 John chapter 1, verse 1 through chapter 5, verse 21. Get a little better idea of what we're talking about. But yeah, again, I was just really pleased with what Gwen gave me and the inspiration that it gave me.
And some of this came from the book that you and Eli were working on too, right?
Well, that was the Christmas before that. Eli, who was probably my 7-year-old grandson at the time. Kids are always drawing little pictures once in a while. But I asked Eli, I said, for Christmas, what if you and I put together a book and you draw some pictures for me, winter pictures or Christmas pictures, winter and Christmas, and I'll write a little poem about them. And then I had them bound together, and he gave them out to both sides of his family for Christmas, and I think it's teachers at school, and he really liked them, and it was just really nice to do that.
Yeah,
and he was happy too with what he read when he read them. It was a couple of them were humorous.
Yeah.
It was. So when Gwen's mother told me about her having drawn these pictures, right away my mind went to that, and I thought, well, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's
perfect. One of the other books before that, I had a picture of a drawing that a friend of schoolmate, a friend of Mary Lou's had drawn of a church, and I think we've talked about this one before.
Right.
I called it Church in the Desert. Found out years later it's a church in the mountains, greenery all around it. But no, it was nice to have that as inspiration, because it just seeing the picture gave me some inspiration. And as I've told you before, there's inspiration in everything. Everything there's some inspiration.
Oh, I see that more and more every day now with you. Yeah, I do. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's this one here was quite the show. I think.
Well, I think it was Gwen's show, and I'm glad we're able to share our thoughts on her, and a couple of things that she did inspire me to write.
Yeah.
And just pray that the Lord will take care of her and protect her, and that her faith and joy in life and love of life grows.
Yeah. And I wish her well in her entrepreneurship to start a business over there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then come back here and run it from there. She's going to be a force.
Yep.
In the world. And I think the Lord wants her to be a force in the world. I just to live over there. I mean, I'm the adventurous one in the family, in a sense. I mean, Paul's the one who does a lot of traveling for vacations, and I'm the one that just moves all over the country. Because I'm the wanderer, I guess. But that's my joy of life. And
all right, the Wanderer's poem.
Yeah, but anyways, wandering is fun.
I'll see if I can do it. I haven't really written a lot lately, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. Well, how about
you give us a closing prayer?
I was going to do that, but before I do, I wanted to make sure everybody knew.
Oh,
yeah, folks, if you want to know where to get Tim's books, you want to see the videos of us doing this now, you want to know where the Facebook page is, which is facebook.com/God Still Rhymes. It's all in the show notes. It's Tim and I.
Excellent.
Poor Tim has been having to tell you how to buy his books forever. And I just remembered the other day, well, it's all in the show notes. He says, tell them there, go over to the show notes and find all the links. Go buy Tim's books if you haven't done it. If you enjoy our conversations, tell your friends. Rate us, subscribe, like, everything, all that good stuff. Anything else, Tim?
Nothing I can think of right now, Dave.
Okay, well, so let's have a closing prayer. What do you think?
I think that would be a great idea.
All right. Dear Lord, I pray to you today that everybody who listens to this is well and stays well. Lord, keep our listeners in your heart and prayer, in your mind, and take care of all of them. Keep them healthy and wise. Lord, please keep an eye on Gwen Allen over in Korea. She is one of your children, and she loves you dearly, and we know you have blessed us by having her with us today. Lord, still keep an eye on those people who are going through so much tragedy in Illinois and Kentucky and Indiana from the storms a couple weeks ago. It's still not easy. And Lord, we thank you for everything you do for us. I thank you for waking me up and bringing me back. And I thank you for Tim's great ability to be a poet, and bless us with all his poetry. And Lord, please keep everybody safe and warm in this new year. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, if you give him the times as you live, his word rhymes.
But don't forget, Tim, we are the King's kids, and you will never get rid of us, because we are his with Jesus.
God bless you all.
God bless you, folks. Have a
great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.